Rolly today was going to introduce Year 7 and 8's geography class tasks, which were varied and many. Thank you, Rolly.
So for our geography this term, our major assessment was to compare the livability of Jakarta in Indonesia, which is their capital, to just the general location that we live in Australia. So we had to research into that. Some things that we might have looked into would be crime or temperatures, what it's like to live there, access to learning resources, and just all those different things, price of housing, and all things that you'd have to take into consideration before you moved somewhere. Later on, after most of us who had finished it had done that, we went to making the globes that you can see up in the corner. For that, we were given a paper mache ball, and we had to research the countries. It's like a balloon, but you know what it is. We had to research the countries and then just paint them on there.
This term we were learning about the modern scientific understanding of how the universe was created. So we looked at the Big Bang theory and all the events that took place after the Big Bang. And to kind of contrast that, I wanted to have a look at the Vedic understanding as well. So we did our Vedic model of creation, which was quite more difficult than what I anticipated, because obviously the way we understand the world is through a 3D model, but the way the Vedas look at the world is multi-dimensional, right? So to try and represent something multi-dimensional with a 3D model was a bit of a challenge, but we all learned from that, and people had different takes on how to do that. So not one thing is exact, but the idea is through all the different models, they kind of represent different aspects of how the Vedas see the universe. So here's actually just a brief little few slides from our PowerPoint from Bhanu Swami. He was kind enough to do a class on Vedic cosmology to kind of give us a bit of knowledge about where we were going with this unit. So I'll show you a few of these slides, which will show you how we got our inspiration for our models. And then I'll show you a digital file that Nandu created to represent his model of the Vedic universe. And then part of our report is I had the students explain what the modern scientific understanding was, explain what the Vedic understanding was, and then compare and contrast the two. And finally, they wrote a speech stating why they think Vedic cosmology should be taught in schools alongside modern science.
Well, Martin Seligman is a psychologist. He's the promoter of positive psychology. He talks about 3 levels of happiness. One is feeling good. And we all need to do that. We all need to have a little bit of ice cream every now and then, have a good laugh with a friend, so we feel good. That's an aspect of happiness, feeling good. Another level of happiness, which is a little bit deeper than that, is when we're in the flow. It means we are engaged in something that we love and relate to so much that time just goes by. You could be reading that book for hours, you could be playing that game for hours, you could be working on building something for hours. You don't even realize that time has gone by, that you haven't even eaten. And that is actually another aspect of feeling satisfied, when we can engage in something that goes with our nature. That's being in the flow. And the last level, and it relates to what you're saying, is when we give of ourselves to a higher cause. So whether that's charity, whether that is, saving the whales, whether that is something higher than that, like sacrificing our ego, our pride, or all these things, even our physical bodies, for the sake of our devotee friends and the Lord feeling happy, that is the highest stage of fulfillment. Even to the point when if I feel uncomfortable, it doesn't affect me, because I feel so much love when I give that we feel satisfied. So that's next level. That takes a while. But hey, better to try than to just sink down to this little guy down there.
What do you mean so-called problem? This is a disaster, squawked Shruti. If you are to look at the situation materialistically, then yes, this is a disaster, replied Gopala frantically. But to be honest, the situation was a true blessing. God has given you a great opportunity to focus on gaining spiritual knowledge and time to study the Vedic scriptures. This spectacular opportunity has also saved you from committing more sins. Because of these rats, you shall become spiritually richer.
Was the issue communicated clearly in the visual text? So this means, if you see right under it, it gives you a brief explanation of what that means in case you forget. It says, you could tell what was the issue that the documentary or talk show was trying to inform us on. So meaning that, yes, I understood what they were talking about and what the topic was.
So you all know my name is Asavri. And I did a talk show on African American slavery. And yeah, you can watch it now.
Please welcome to the stage from Zimbabwe, Mr. Watambu and Gus Johnson Jr. from the United States.
I was sold and brought to a plantation owner, and then all my rights were taken away from me as a human being. I was then forced to work in the field, growing and harvesting cotton. Working in the fields was one of the most brutal areas because we were beaten and whipped on the daily basis.
Well, Mary, did you not see their savages side? From what I've seen, let me tell you that these animals were extremely savages and violent. This suffering was important because it kept them under control. Become more inhuman-like.
Some of the environmental effects that have been associated with meat production are pollution through fossil fuel usage, animal methane, that word, and water, land consumption. 1 kilo of meat production uses 5,000 to 20,000 liters of water, but 1 kilogram of wheat only requires about 500 to 4,000 liters of water.
The meat industry. Most practices of industrial meat production are immoral and horrific to the creatures living in them. Thus, if you eat the meat, you will get bad karma. Even if you eat meat from a free-range farm, you'll still get a bad reaction from eating the meat because it used to be a living creature.
From the documentary, we actually started watching What the Health, and they talk about this. Like frugivore jaws, like ours, move forward and back and side to side, and omnivore jaws cannot. Omnivores have much stronger stomach acid for digesting meat compared to less acidic.
They show in the movie very clearly that they show many doctors and many researchers that they did that actually consuming meat or animal products blocks the way for your sugar to go into the cells, and this is actually why the sugars start to accumulate in your different places and not where it should go, because we are, as by nature, we can deal with carbons very easily.
So my talk show was about the Armenian genocide, and Armenian genocide. And I am in it. There is Ro, my sister, and she will be the person who says the genocide was racist, and Tulsi will be in it, and she will be the one saying that it wasn't racist, and I am the host. Welcome back to Controversy and Dispute, where we discuss some of the biggest topics that cause debates all over the world. I'm your host, Mandali Robson, and today we are going to be talking about the Armenian genocide. First up, we have Maria Hakobian, a famous Armenian researcher who spreads awareness daily on the horrific events that happened during the Armenian genocide. And next up, we have Karia Asim, a Turkish researcher who is shining light on the side of the Armenian genocide that is so rarely seen. It's great to see you both. Now let's get right into the topic. Genocide is the deliberate killing of a large group of people, especially those of a particular nation or religious group. Between the years of 1914 and 1923, there was a genocide being carried out in Turkey, and by the end of it, a total of 1.5 million Armenian people had been killed or expelled, leaving only 1/4 of the original population.
I am also fining Mr. Sterling $2.5 million, the maximum amount allowed under the NBA Constitution.
They have racial stereotypes, and the sad reality is that most of them are only in college to play sports and not get a degree as well. So after they finish college, they don't have anything to fall back on. They might have to work a 9-to-5 job for the rest of their lives.
African Americans
They employed intimidation, robbery, assault, and even murder, all to achieve their aims and influence in upcoming elections. They also used black people to do slave trading. The KKK only lasted a few years and ended in 1869. However, later it reformed and called itself Knights of the KKK. The KKK did many horrendous things to gain power. This is the reason they are viewed as a violent and extreme cult. There are many stories from people explaining the things the KKK did. Ben Johnson, a born slave around 1848, told a story to a team from the Federal Writers Project that was gathering recollections from former slaves.
The students got an opportunity to check out a lot of these incredible artworks just in Biro, and I found these yesterday and I thought, oh, these can become the prizes. And I also got light yo-yos, but I only got 3. Hey!
I'd like to point out that learning, not necessarily education, learning can happen through education like we do in classrooms here, but it can also happen through training when you do competency-based courses, like specific skills like singing or using a saw, whatever it is. So that kind of training also is learning. But employment and work experience are also a way of learning, and it's actually recognized by not only TAFE institutes or things like that, but universities.
Graffiti artists, and like Banksy, he was the main guy because he was Banksy.
A really good opportunity for the students to be connected to Krishna, connected to Srila Prabhupada. Really beautiful opportunity for them to really individualize their learning as they progress through their high school years. And I think this is the place of what you would like to call self-realization or self-discovery, where on many different levels students can realize themselves, and materially, vocationally, as well as spiritually.
In the 1970s, we had a thing called the Education Reform Association, which was a way of deconstructing traditional education to allow people to, I guess it quickly said, to grow autonomy and self-directed learning. But the types of schools that I encountered were a little too free-form, and so I didn't feel that I would do well in that environment. I needed some supervision, but some autonomy. That's what I feel like this Gurukul offers. You've got staff that are involved and caring, and yet able to identify the particular needs of the student, so that that individual is allowed to express themselves without feeling oppressed.
I like the way the staff treats the children and take care of them, and really try to make them grow. I like the family feeling that everybody has here, and try to take care of the children as if they're their own children. I like that this is a God-conscious school.
I feel like we've already accomplished so much just this year already with individualized learning plans and behavior management, as well as listening to students' opinions and voicing. With starting up the student council, it helps a lot with them taking initiative or their leadership and taking initiative in a lot of the things that regarding the school. So I think what needs to improve from this point on is just helping students to find their own way as individuals, because now they have this freedom, but some of them still don't know how to orient it or guide it. So it is our job to just kind of help motivate them and guide them through finding themselves and their own process, or what works for them.
So we have a great high school here. We have about 30 or 40 students. We do a range of activities. At the moment you can see we're doing martial arts as one of our sporting practices that we do. We have volleyball going on in the hall as well. It's a great place to be, serving Krishna and serving the devotees. Very happy to be here.
Today we looked at graffiti art, and that was cool to look at what we made this term.
You got to search for something more than material fulfillment, and hopefully have a happy life in something that will keep you happy permanently, and not just spend your time trying to chase material desires like a nice car or something that will be nice for a while but not in the long term.
It's good. I like it because it's small, and the teachers are really nice, and the friends are really nice too.
We love doing the best subjects, probably like sports and arts and stuff. And we also spend a lot of time hanging out together.
I appreciate that the school is Hare Krishna because
it's a Hare Krishna school.